Do you feel like you're constantly giving in to someone else? Narcissists love supply, and they love getting from you. Why do narcissists often go after empaths? Why do I keep attracting all these narcissists? Why do I keep attracting these toxic people? Have you noticed that narcissists change masks when dealing with different people? You're like, wait a second, what's going on? Now you have a new person, and this appeared really quickly. Why are they getting everything that I thought we were going to have in our relationship? What's wrong with me? Did you have a narcissist in your life that cheated on you and left you, or cheated on you and you knew about it and you confronted them about it and they wouldn't tell you, or they wouldn't be honest about what was actually happening? It's so hard to walk away. Yeah, no, it's hard to walk away because of the story that you're telling yourself. A narcissist having someone in their life that is supply. How they love that reaction, how they love that attention from another person. What is the difference between narcissistic supply and getting your needs met? Sometimes this gets confused, and a lot of times people are not sure what is actually real or what is actually true. So let me ask you a couple questions. Like, do you feel like you're constantly giving in to someone else who never seems to appreciate or reciprocate, whatever you're giving? Okay, do you feel like you're struggling to be able to understand the motivations behind the loved one's behavior, the person in your life? I don't actually understand where they're coming from. And do you want to know the difference between healthy relationships and those driven by narcissistic supply? Okay, well, what we're going to talk about today is exploring the concept of narcissistic supply, the motivations behind it, and how it differs from getting your needs met in a healthy relationship. If you can understand this key difference, it can help you actually recognize and to be able to navigate the toxic relationship, understanding the truth of the situation, and then how to be able to set boundaries to protect yourself from emotional harm, from emotional trauma. Okay. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness about narcissistic abuse. So for people to understand what is actually going on and how to get free. If you're curious about understanding more about narcissistic personality disorder, narcissistic abuse, you can go to escapetoxicity.com. You can click the link down below. There's a 7-day challenge on there for $7. It's a way for us to be able to get into your world and environment to help you understand the things that you've been going through, the struggles that you've been facing, and the confusion of being with a toxic person. So check that out, escapetoxicity.com. When we're talking about this aspect of supply, now I need to make a little addendum, I guess, here at the very beginning. A lot of times when we talk about supply, we'll use that in the form of talking about another person, okay? As far as you were a supply to the narcissist, okay? While a lot of times that's accurate, a lot of times it's also offensive to a lot of people. So I need to make sure you understand, I'm not calling people supply as in that's how I view them. Okay, that is how I used to view them, and that is how I used to view people before I started to work on gratitude and being grateful and appreciative. That is the way we phrase it because that is how it looks in a narcissistic person's mind of this person is giving me supply. Okay, so what is narcissistic supply? Let's break it down a little bit. Narcissistic supply is this term to describe the attention, the admiration, the adulation, the seeking of getting something from another person that a narcissist craves in that moment. A lot of times it's to be able to sustain my sense of self-worth. Okay, so I want supply from you. I want you to adore me. I want to get validated by you so that I feel better about myself. Now, a lot of times a narcissist doesn't seem like they need to feel better about themselves, right? They're so confident. They're so I'm the best thing ever. But really, there's a giant bit of insecurity and shame that's underneath the surface that they're constantly hiding. And so there's this need for validation. If I want to get validated of who I actually am when I'm not actually that person. This is why a lot of times the mask gets built and formed. So a narcissist has a mask of this is who I am, where this is really who I am behind the mask. Okay. And so the narcissist validate my mask, make me feel better about my mask when that's not actually who I am. Okay. But that's the piece is a lot of times narcissist wants that supply. The attention, the adoration, the aspect of worship. I want you to worship me. That's the thought process. So in relationships, a lot of the people that I cheated with, okay, when I was with my wife and cheated on other people, cheated with her, whatever, you figured out, okay? There was an aspect that those people, I wanted in my life because they adored me. Because they thought I was the best. And so I was well, my wife doesn't think I'm the best. These other people don't think this person thinks I'm the best, so therefore they must be the right person for me, right? There's this idea of they actually care. They actually worship. They actually love. All these things get switched around in my mind to make me feel better about myself. All it was is pumping up ego. Okay, so when we talk about this aspect of supply, attention, admiration, a lot of times we also put it interchangeably with the other person of like, hey, you were supply. You were providing attention, admiration, worship, so therefore you were supply. Okay, not degrading the person, but saying this is the style, this is the thing that are actually happening. Okay, so narcissists seek out narcissistic supply to fulfill emotional needs, right? To boost the ego, to maintain a grandiose sense of self, to say like, hey, I'm all that because this person makes me feel this way. Okay, so you see this with the grandiose side of oftentimes a person who constantly wants to be praised, of like validated and feel good about themselves. Sometimes this is at the expense of your needs, at the expense of how you feel. Like it doesn't matter how you feel, but you should be paying attention to me. Sometimes you'll see this come out in like sickness of like you're sick and they're like, why aren't you paying attention to me? Like, why aren't my needs getting met? Like you see this when you have a baby of like you have a kid and they're like, that kid is in the way of me. Now they're not going to say that, but that's how the actions are going to come across. Okay. So there's this aspect of narcissistic supply. Then we have this aspect of getting your needs met. Now, side note that we need to be able to say with this. A lot of times a narcissist will tell you that the reason why they cheated is because he wasn't getting his needs met, okay? So there's this piece here that I need to put in the middle just as like side note so you understand. That's a bunch of BS, okay? That's the easiest way to put it. A narcissist that says, hey, I'm not getting my needs met, which is why I cheated, is really saying like, hey, I didn't want to show up honest and vulnerable in the relationship, but I rather go to find someone else for sex to make me feel better about myself. Okay, that is a coward and not even a man that's showing up in your life right now that's saying like, I left because I just wasn't getting my needs met. Just FYI, those needs that he's trying to have are not necessarily for life. You know, it's not like drinking water or like eating food, but it'll make you feel that way. Of like, you are depriving me of the one thing in life that I had to have to be able to survive. And all of it is just this BS, okay? So you need to understand, like, it's not that. There's a lot of other reasons, but it's not that reason. Narcissists will tell you that so they feel better about themselves. Feel better about themselves that they cheated on you. Okay. All right. So when we're talking about our needs getting met, I want to actually be able to talk about your needs getting met in a healthy relationship, like what this looks like. Now, when we're talking about getting needs met, it means that both parties, okay, both people are actually in a give and a receive. Now, give and receiving love, support, validation. Like this is the person that is being honest, being vulnerable, showing consistent change. Like this is actually a healthy relationship. So the difference, okay? When we're talking about this, the motivation is different than just someone getting something from you, extracting value, but it's actually both are inputting value. You might have heard the phrase of the idea of like, it's not just that in a marriage or in a relationship that everybody is like, it's 50-50. It's 100, it's 100. Like both people are actually investing in the other person. Both people are actually giving themselves to the other person. It's not just like, I'm just going to take what I want out of it, which is typically narcissistic supply. So in this aspect, both partners in the healthy relationship, they seek to meet each other's emotional needs and support each other in how they're growing, changing, healing, and developing. Okay. And so it's important to be able to see there's a difference. Typically, narcissistic supply is all one-sided. It's like pulling it from you, where when we're talking about having your needs met, there's this combination of the two of you working together. You typically won't find this happening in a narcissistic relationship because they don't want to work with you, especially with your emotions, especially with your needs, because those are an inconvenience to oftentimes what they want. Now, you sometimes have the covert narcissist that's going to placate to those needs, that's going to give you what you want in those moments, because if I do this, it will make me look better, which means you will praise me, which gives me the admiration. All of it goes back. Okay, so you have to understand it's still cyclical, like back to the narcissist. So as we talk about this, what's the main differences like between the two? So the main differences between the two is the narcissistic supply and getting your needs met is that the former one is one-sided. Okay, it's driven solely by the narcissist's need for validation and for control. While the latter is reciprocal, like the relationship is actually built on mutual trust, mutual respect, mutual love. It's actually working together. But a lot of times people want to switch this around and make it feel like, wait a second, like I'm only getting half. Okay, so you need to understand with the supply, we're talking about it in a toxic environment. Okay, it's draining, it's ultimately unsatisfying. Like while getting your needs met in healthy relationship brings joy, it brings fulfillment, it brings long-term happiness because the motivation is different. This is why a lot of relationships with a narcissist will never peter out to actually being something successful. One, because the narcissist is shallow, has a mask, manipulating, controlling. But then two, because what they're doing is they're just trying to extract value from you. A lot of times people will feel this way. You've probably felt this way in the relationship where it feels like someone is like leeching off of you, almost like a vampire effect. They're sucking the life out of you in so many different ways because what they want is more important than what you want. So you need to ask yourself, when you're in this type of relationship, am I with someone that's actually demonstrating love, respect, care, kindness, loyalty, honesty? The list goes on and on forever. Because you want to be able to find a person and be in a relationship where it's actually working together. A narcissist is typically going to come back to you for supply, is going to keep using it for supply when you keep giving that supply. And so you need to be able to take a step back at this, not just because, I'm just such an empathetic person and I love this person so much. It's no, you actually don't have a proper view of you and a proper view of your own self-love. So as a result, you keep giving and giving and giving and giving and not getting anything in return. Now, it doesn't mean that you're just, only giving to get, vice versa, but there has to be a working together. There has to be this combination of the relationship that's actually helping you progress and move forward. If you don't see that, then you're not in a relationship. You're in a pipe dream. You're living a lie, a fantasy, instead of actually reality. Like, part of what we try to do inside of Raw Motivations is help you get free of the mental cage that you're stuck in. There's a version of you that is stuck in a cage that can't get out. And those are limiting beliefs. Those are trauma bonds. Those are the idea of that person is going to change and come back and be there for you. All these things that you have to be able to break free before you can even break free physically or financially from that toxic person. If you're not sure where to start today, you can go to escapetoxicity.com, sign up for the 7-day challenge, and start your healing process. Understand it is a process. It is a journey. We're not going to get you healed in 7 days, okay? But we are starting that process to educate you of what's going on, how narcissism looks, what reactive abuse looks like, what the shame and the guilt that you feel right now for being with that person or being with that person so long. How do we start processing that? How do we start breaking the bond of being stuck to a toxic person? If you want to work with me one-on-one in an accelerated environment, you can go to rawmotivations.com. You can click on the one-on-ones there. I'd love to be able to talk to you. Or maybe if you're a good fit, you could join our Thriver community to actually be able to help you maximize who you are, achieve your goals, and move forward every single day. Thanks so much, and y'all have a great day. Narcissists love supply, and they love getting from you. Transactional relationships, money, image, sex, but they just love having you in their life, not because they love you, because of what they're getting from you. You curious about the concept of narcissistic supply? How the role actually happens in the narcissist world. Maybe you're wondering why some interactions provide this positive attention while others seem to result in conflict with the narcissist. You're like, I don't understand. How does it even supply? What does it even look like? So today we're going to dive into the concept of narcissistic supply and examine two primary categories that I've identified: the good supply and also bad supply. Now, when we talk about this, it's important to understand different dynamics. We're going to dive into it a little bit more, but I need you to understand about the supply piece, and we'll wrap it up with a third point talking about what all supply is for a narcissist, what they're actually looking for, what it actually means, what is actually compelling, okay? So we're going to talk through different aspects. So if you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel providing awareness about narcissistic abuse. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations and your guide in the 7-day challenge, which is Escape Toxicity, the 7-day challenge to healing, helping you move forward and understand narcissistic personality disorder, reactive abuse, the guilt of being with a narcissist, just getting a baseline, first step into the realm of this is how we help you heal and move forward in your healing. Our goal is to help you grow, change, heal, and develop. And we do that by producing content, helping you see, hey, this is us trying to help you move forward. Well, when we talk through this aspect of narcissistic supply, one of the first things that people get all bent out of shape about is they're like, wait a second, you're calling another person supply. In the terms of narcissism and understanding that, yes. One of the easiest ways to be able to say it is, hey, when you're with a narcissist, you are a supply. You are a life force that the narcissist can suck dry. You are the person that the vampire has his teeth locked into, sucking the blood out of you. You are supply when you're with a toxic person. Now, what this doesn't mean is that you're worthless. What this doesn't mean is that you're less than anybody else, okay? This is the narcissistic aspect talking and saying, hey, narcissistic supply is typically a person, and that is narcissist getting something from that person. What does that look like? One of the aspects that I want to point out is good supply. Positive attention, validation. This is normally what people think about when they think good supply. Like a supply, oh, I was really good to them. Okay. Then you have people talk about, oh, I was grade A supply. I was the best at getting manipulated and the life force sucked out of me. Okay, you don't want to be grade A supply. Okay, when narcissists are in the relationships, they want to crave this aspect of attention. Now, when it's in the positive realm, it looks like this validation, this admiration, this worshiping the other person. They thrive on it. Like you're actually paying attention to me. Like, I love the attention. I love what you're actually doing. I love the communication, love the interaction. Okay. Narcissists are infatuated with some of this. Okay. Of getting this supply from you. It can look in multiple different ways. Maybe it's getting you to compliment them. And like, they might say it, they might in their mind just be like, yeah, I know, I'm so amazing, aren't I? Like there's different aspects here. Okay, narcissists is like fishing for compliments. They're fishing for the promotion. They're fishing for all these different aspects of like, hey, this makes me feel better. Okay, they're looking for praise that ultimately boosts a fragile self-esteem. Narcissists seem really confident. They seem cocky. They seem like, oh my gosh, like this person like just has it all down. No, not necessarily. Majority of the time, they're hiding a fragile self-esteem behind a mask, and they want praise from another person to boost themselves up, to make themselves feel better, because they're not actually working on the self-reflection of working on themselves by themselves. This type of supply reinforces their image as being superior. So like in the workplace, I would get this image reinforced all the time because I was really good at what I did. Like I could fix stuff really quickly. I could make stuff more efficient really quickly. Like there's different aspects that I was really good at it. So I'd have people be like, whoa, how did he do that? How did he fix this? All this kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm that good. And so there'd be this aspect of like trying to think like, how do I get this good supply? How do I make myself feel better about everybody thinking wonderful things of me? Like it reinforces their image as superior, reinforces it as being special, and reinforces it as deserving of special treatment. Entitlement. I'm entitled to you. I'm entitled to what I want. I'm entitled to what I get because of how amazing I am. This is a whole like king concept, okay? Like I'm the king because everybody needs to serve me because I'm so amazing. Oh, you stop serving me, discard. You're done with, okay? This is the idea. Like narcissists might bask in the admiration of others when they receive accolades for their achievements, physical appearance, their intelligence of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you. You're so great. All these things, okay? They feel inflated with a sense of self-worth and then showered with positive attention, validation. It only fuels their ego. Okay, a narcissist struggles to get in a room because their ego is too big. Okay, a lot of times you will see this with an overt narcissist of where the ego is so huge, you're like, how does this even work? But you'll see this a lot of times where people end up inflating a narcissist's ego. So good supply. So what typically people think about is like good supply is like, I loved him so much. I can't believe he did this. I was good supply. Why did he leave? You know, there's all these different aspects. But then there's also the flip side, which is bad supply. Now, when I talk about bad supply, I don't mean that your supply is unworthy or not good enough. And as a result, the narcissist is going to leave. We're not talking about that. Okay. Bad supply is seeking emotional reactions and control. Okay. So contrary to good supply, bad supply is the negative attention. Like the negative aspect that's happening of like, here's a conflict, here's an event, here's something that's happening here. The narcissist is getting called out for something. And the emotional reactions that a narcissist ends up provoking in your life intentionally. These aren't just like fly by night of like, oh, let me piss you off. It's like, nope, we're going to do this. We're going to be intentional about this. We're going to get what we want. And if we run over you at the same time, it doesn't really matter. Okay. This might be where narcissist engages in behaviors that elicits anger from you. Promotes this aspect of reactive abuse where they're pushing you over and over and over and over again until you react, till you feel crazy and just explode. When this happens, the narcissist is trying to get a reaction out of you, to see your anger, see your frustration, to make you cower in fear, to get you to the place where you're sad. Like all these different things are negative reactions to what the narcissist is doing. But they're doing that to be able to get a reaction, to be able to see this negative piece. This might be you even calling out the narcissist, you attacking the narcissist. It further validates them. It's like, oh, they still love me. They're still coming after me. They still care. They're still obsessed with me. And it's further fueling the aspect that they think in their mind already that they're the best thing ever. So you have to be careful of what you actually do. Like all these reactions validate power and control over you, over the victim. Narcissists a lot of times might deliberately provoke arguments, engage in verbal abuse, or manipulate situations to create chaos. Sometimes people ask, why won't he leave? Like, it's so chaotic. He says it's awful. I'm like, that's why he won't leave. Because he's created the chaos. Because he's in control of the chaos. Why would you leave when you're already in control of the situation? Even if it's bad. Well, he says it's bad, so why won't he leave? He doesn't really care. He cares about being in control. Even if it's negative, still an aspect of control. Narcissists will oftentimes enjoy the emotional turmoil it generates because it affirms that they're dominant. Okay? And you should be able to understand that Narcissist doesn't always create this emotional turmoil just to create emotional turmoil, or just because they don't like you, or just because they hate you, all these things. What they do is like, no, I need to feel better about myself. Like I'm more dominant than you. I need control. So therefore I'm going to make you feel bad. I'm going to push you down. Okay. The end aspect that I'm trying to explain here is whether it's good supply, whether it's bad supply, what the narcissist is looking for is a reaction. When you react to a narcissist, it validates their power, their control, their dominance over you, makes them feel better, helps prop up their ego, their self-esteem. And it's like, oh, I am actually the best because I got this. I told this person, I did this, and I got this reaction. Okay? Narcissists are running away from guilt and shame. They're hiding their deep-seated insecurities. They're running away from fragile self-esteem. They're going to seek external validation or response from another person. A narcissist will do this in the good supply piece of like, oh, give me all the love because I want this. I need your help. Oh, yes, thank you so much. And they'll do it in the negative thing where they'll be causing interactions, they'll be causing problems, you'll be calling them out and they're like, yep, you still obsessed with me. Okay? So this whole piece of like attention and power over other people. Okay, at the end of the day, the big word that you need to understand is narcissist is looking for reaction. Supply is reaction. Good or bad supply, it is reaction to something they did. So when you react, when a narcissist, quote unquote, causes you to react, okay, that is them being like, I'm in control. I'm in power. I'm in dominance. Okay, so this is a piece that you're going to see a lot of times where narcissists is pushing your buttons to get you to respond, get you to react in a certain way so they feel better about themselves. Have you seen this happen? Have you seen this where a narcissist is pushing your buttons so much, you respond and now you're questioning, am I the narcissist? Because I've been abusive, I've yelled at him, I've screamed at him, I've thrown different things. Maybe it's me. If you're struggling with that today, I want to invite you to go to escapetoxicity.com. Click the link in the bio. Because when you see it, when you understand it, it walks you through the process of what is a narcissist, what is reactive abuse, what about the guilt and shame of being with a narcissist. It walks it and breaks it down for you. Because there's a lot of people that think they might be abusive or they might have reactive abuse. They just don't know what it is in the moment. So when you're able to start diving in and understanding, hey, this might be what you're struggling with, we also provide a path to move forward into freedom, into understanding who you actually are versus being stuck in the fog, in the toxicity over and over. If you want to work with me one-on-one, we can see if you'd be a good fit for working with me or inside our Thriver community. You can go to www.rawmotivations.com, click on one-on-ones. Would love to interact with you. Would love to see if this would be a good fit moving forward. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, rate, review, share the message with anybody out there. Thank you all so much. Why do narcissists often go after empaths? Or why do narcissists actually think that they even make up good supply, or they're able to get things from those people better than other people? If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. And we do it on all the different platforms out there. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're on the podcast side with Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and also Spotify, all under Raw Motivation. So if you haven't had a chance to be able to follow on some of those platforms, give us a follow. Sometimes you just seeing a video or hearing a podcast and sharing it with a friend of yours that might be in an abusive situation can be life or death, can be freedom for that person getting away from an abuser, getting away from someone who is taking away a lot of their freedoms by narcissistic abuse. Oftentimes we hear and we talk about narcissists and how they go after certain types of people. Sometimes it's people that look a certain way or act a certain way or have different finances or different education or different things. And sometimes there's different variations about that depending on the narcissist and depending on different people that they're around of what they actually go after. When we're talking about the idea of empaths or someone who is identified as an empath, we need to first understand, what does that even look like? What does that even mean? You see, typically when we're talking about empaths, we're talking about someone who has a high level of empathy, a high level of sensitivity to different things that are going on. Oftentimes they can read a room, or they can understand someone's feelings. They can put themselves in that other person's shoes and feel or experience the things that that person is going through. Typically, they'll have high levels of intuition, of being able to have instinctual ideas of like, wait a second, something doesn't seem right. Something might be off. Often you'll see aspects of them being very caring, warm, loving, like all these different things that actually come into the relationship of saying like, hey, like I care and I love about you, like even more so, not even just relationships, but everybody in their life. Typically, there's an aspects of being highly sensitive, okay? And having a level of sensitivity that is more of an awareness of what's actually going around them. Maybe it's different energies, maybe it's different people's moods, different aspects like that. Now you look online and there's a lot of different questions to be able to ask of like, how do you know if you're an empath? How do you know all these different things? Different aspects of like, are your feelings easily hurt? Do you feel emotionally drained when you're around other people, groups of people, or crowds? Do you find yourself taking on other people's stress? Have you been accused at times of maybe being too sensitive? Do you feel overwhelmed in crowded spaces or around a lot of people? Would others describe you as empathetic? If a friend is distraught or going through a tough time, do you feel it? Is it something that you exemplify with? And there's loads of other questions, but the idea is if you answer yes to some of those, then it might be something you want to look into. You never know. You see, narcissists as a whole oftentimes are looking for other people to be able to feed off of. Now, when I'm talking about feed off of, I'm talking about the idea of ego, of entitlement, of manipulation, of all these different things of like, I want to be able to feel a certain way. This is why narcissists go after people that oftentimes will have very high levels of admiration because they want to be adored. They want to be respected. They want to have people that seek after them so they feel better about themselves. Being with a narcissist, you're normally going to notice that that person wants to have that type of validation towards them a lot. Sometimes it varies depending on the type or the person, but a lot of that needs to happen in order for you to be on good terms with that other person. When I've been with other people, some of the aspect of that validation piece or of that admiration is always thinking, hey, it needs to always be about me. And you going off and doing something else with another friend or someone else, like that affects that. And I'm going to get upset at that because it's not all about me in that moment. You're probably going off and doing something else. Now you're cheating on me. All these other things that keep popping up because it's like, hey, I'm not able to feed off of you, feed off of your energy, off of the stuff that's happening in those moments because you're not near me. You're not with me. You're not doing the stuff that I want you to do in that moment. So why a lot of times do narcissists think empaths specifically are good supply? Well, when we're talking about empaths, we're going into it. One aspect is it's easy to overwhelm oftentimes someone who's empathetic because it's easy to overwhelm their nervous system. It's easy to overwhelm who they are as a person. And it's easy to manipulate that overwhelming feeling to be able to get your own way. So like as a narcissist, like going into a conversation, going into an argument, having that ramp up and more, I wouldn't get necessarily like frazzled in the argument. I just keep throwing stuff at the other person. Then eventually they get to the place where they're like, oh, okay, like fine, I just give in. And that's the goal, is be able to manipulate someone to be able to be compliant to what they want. So like I would manipulate until that person just finally gave in or got overwhelmed of like, fine, it's whatever. Like I'll just do it. I'll do whatever you want, or I'll do this, whatever it might be. Oftentimes, the hard part for someone who identifies as an empath is it's hard because their intuition says one thing, but then the narcissist says the exact opposite. So like the intuition says, hey, something is wrong. This person is not treating me right. This person is not caring for me or loving for me, or how they said that, like came across weird because there's actually undertones underneath that's trying to beat me down. Like they have that intuition that pops up, but then the narcissist says something else and they're like, oh, well, maybe my intuition is wrong. And you see gaslighting, you see cognitive dissonance, all these different types of things. In my relationship with my wife, there came a time when she had moments when she was around different people, when she was in different scenarios, that she had a gut instinct. Something is off. Like Ben is cheating. Ben is with that person. There's something going on there. She had that intuition. Oftentimes, when that would come to the surface, she'd accuse me of it. She'd say stuff about it. I make sure I'd lie, manipulate, gaslight, be like, no, like this doesn't exist. But she would have that. That intuition would be there. But then the narcissist, myself, would be like, no, that doesn't exist. Okay? Oftentimes, the narcissist will use that to be able to confuse the other person. The narcissist oftentimes uses your care. So a person who identifies being empathetic, that cares a lot for other people, a narcissist will use that a lot of times to weaponize it for themselves. You care so much for so many people, you know what? I'm actually broken. You need to come fix me. And then you spend all your time giving all your time and energy to that person to fix them or to help them or to make them better. And as a result, they've actually gained an advantage because they now control your actions by appearing a certain way. Sometimes that's, weak or, unsure, or insecure, or different things like that. But in turn, controls the other person to make them respond whenever they want that person to respond. Same thing with like overwhelming. It's like an aspect of not being able to like recharge, an empath not being able to recharge by getting away from people, to get to a less stressed state. Narcissist is always putting stuff on you, like more and more and more. Like the argument doesn't stop. It just keeps ramping up. A lot of times when people talk about themselves being an empath, one aspect is they want to avoid conflict. Like conflict, a lot of times for those types of personalities is very hard to deal with, is very frustrating, and is very hard to be able to I don't know if I can actually deal with this right now. So a lot of times they try to avoid conflict, and that's one thing that the narcissist loves is if you avoid the conflict, that means I can get my way. I can overwhelm you. I can make you act, become a certain way so that I can get what I want. So when people run away from conflict, the narcissist is like, sweet, you're perfect because I can manipulate you. You won't actually argue. You won't actually buck up against me. You'll do what I want. You'll go do whatever, and then I can have my cake and eat it too. I can do whatever I want. Oftentimes in this way, the narcissist will end up getting into their lives and isolating them. They want to recharge. They want to work on themselves, stuff like that. Okay, do that, but don't do this with other people. Like it has to be with me or not at all. Like there's a huge aspect of trying to keep that isolation so that the narcissist keeps that supply. The other aspect that typically happens when we're talking about empaths is they're bad at boundaries. Sometimes this might be because of childhood and they grew up with parents that didn't have boundaries or were bad at boundaries themselves. And it's something that they've just inherently learned, or it's something that's been a habit based on previous relationships or based on how much they care about another person, that they give so much care to another person, they forget that some of that needs to go back to themselves and that they need to work on themselves and establish healthy boundaries so they don't give everything to another person and don't have anything left to grow themselves or to help themselves. Oftentimes I'll use like the illustration of you're flying, and whenever they talk about, whenever you're sitting there and they talk about buckling up, the escape exits, everything, they also talk about like the masks that come down, the oxygen masks, to be able to help you in case the cabin loses pressure. Well, they always tell you, secure yours first and then take care of someone else's. Oftentimes you have empaths that are going around and they're giving their oxygen mask to everybody else, be like, you need oxygen, using oxygen. Oh yeah, by the way, I don't have any. Oh crap, I forgot. Yeah. Because a lot of times the focus is so much on helping other people versus it is having good, healthy boundaries and growing and working on themselves. And you probably notice, like, even in talking through this, because I've noticed it as I've been talking, even through talking through this, you notice, like, my wording, like, changes. To be like, I did this, and then they, narcissists, do this. And oftentimes it's still me, like, reconciling in my head where I'm giving a specific illustration towards me and then other illustrations towards other people. So I'm sorry if that sounds confusing. The thing I want you to understand is a lot of times narcissists will go after anyone, okay? A lot of times we'll see them go after, in a cheating aspect, they'll go after someone younger because that person is viewed as like fresh meat, okay? It's viewed as, hey, this person is young, they're easily moldable, they haven't had a lot of life experiences, so whatever I tell them, whatever I expose them to, that's all they will know. So a lot of narcissists will go towards younger people. Not always, okay? The two things that I think narcissists always go after is people that don't have a sense of self and don't have boundaries. If you have someone who has no sense of self and no direction of where they're going, they in turn won't have any good, healthy boundaries. And as a result, the narcissist is able to come into their life, use and abuse and manipulate and tell them, no, you're supposed to be following me. You're supposed to be going this direction, and control the way that that person goes. So oftentimes when you're thinking through, hey, am I an empath? Am I not? Like, is this stuff that I identify with? I want to ask you the question, do you know who you are? And do you have boundaries in your life that you can actually have in your life that are goals for you, that are things that are helping you move forward in a positive way? If you don't, then I want you to check out claritychallenge.net. It's a new challenge that we've come out with to help people gain clarity after being with a toxic person. Have you ever wondered what narcissists are looking for in the next supply? Or maybe you've been with a narcissist and you've gotten right back involved with another toxic person. Or maybe you feel like you just keep going to person. You're like, why do I keep attracting all these narcissists? Why do I keep attracting these toxic people? Do you ever wonder what it is that they're looking for, or what is actually happening that it always seems to come back to you, or you always seem to get involved with those type of people? Today I want to talk through a couple typical things that people think of, and then highlight two things in particular that I think narcissists look for in the next supply, into the next person that they're going to manipulate, use, and abuse. So stick around. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. We do it on all the different platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all under Raw Motivations. So if you don't follow already, you can go and click on Raw Motivations and give us a follow. Help share some of these episodes with someone that might be struggling with the same thing. Maybe somebody that is a friend of yours that is going through the crazy making time of being with a toxic person that might just need some encouragement, or might just need to have their eyes opened of what might be actually going on in their life or in their relationship. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, would love to be able to help you work through the trauma bond, breaking through the rumination, and building healthy boundaries. Would love to talk to you. Just go to rawmotivations.com, click on the link down below, click on one-on-ones. Would love to interact with you and help coach you through that healing process and that healing journey moving forward. If you guys don't have community, like people alongside you that understand what you're going through and are able to support you, then I want to invite you to check out the NARC app. This stands for Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community. It's a community of like-minded people that we've built to try to help people through the crazy making and to continue forward out of the abusive relationship into that healing journey as they continue moving forward into a growth mindset. We've been working hard on developing it and changing it around and adding more features to it so that you can interact with other people on the app. You can go in and you can take courses on narcissism or specific things that we're talking about on a particular month or a basis. And you can go in and you can log your no contact. You can journal your truth. You can engage with weekly lives and weekly assignments that we do, and also monthly group coaching that we get involved with every single month with bringing coaches from all across the globe. Would love to have you check that out. Go to narcapp.com, N-A-R-C-A-P-P, narcapp.com. Would love to have you there and be able to join in that community aspect as we build out even further. If you guys want to hear my wife's perspective, we recently have started up a new podcast over the past couple months called Trauma, Drama, and Life. It's on Apple Podcasts. Would love to have you check it out. It's where my wife and I sit down. We answer questions that you guys write in at ben@rawmotivations.com or DM us on Instagram. And then we also just give insight into our lives of what's been happening, of how it's transpired, of being with a narcissist, of the pitfalls, the ups and downs in our relationship. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. Jumping into the episode today, what do narcissists look for in that next supply? Because normally you'll see some people that they're like, man, I feel like I'm just stuck in a cycle of being with a narcissist. Like it always happens. I've been going from narcissist to narcissist. Or maybe you've been with someone who is an overt narcissist, and then you get stuck in another relationship that you're like, this is so much better. They're not like that person. And then you realize that they're actually a covert narcissist, and you're stuck with that as well. Okay? A lot of times people get to the place where they think, maybe I'm just a narcissist magnet. Like I just attract narcissists. So we've done a couple of videos on that particularly, because a lot of times people think like, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, I want to be able to dive into that. Okay, so a couple popular things that a lot of times people talk about is that they think are like common with a lot of new supplies, with the next person, with the next victim, different things like that. One of them would be the idea of them being younger. Okay, it's not all the time. Sometimes it's older, but a lot of times we'll see people that come to the table and they're like, yeah, the person that they, decided to go with, the person that they cheated on me with, all these different things, they were just younger than me. Like, not just like a year younger, like they were like 5, 10, 15, more years younger than me. I don't understand what's wrong with me of why they went to that person. Well, to give you perspective, the reason why a narcissist goes for a person that's younger than you is often the idea of moldability. It means that that person hasn't had as much life experience. Maybe they're naive. Maybe they haven't seen as many aspects. Maybe they have no clue about narcissists, right? And so the narcissist goes to this person and it's like, hey, I can take this person, I can mold them, and I can develop them to be the perfect person for me. To be the person that I want and that I need in my life to fill all the gaps and all the holes because everybody else in my past wasn't good enough. Everybody in my past couldn't meet my standards. Well, that's because the narcissist was always moving the standards because they couldn't deal with themselves. But that's a whole other subject, okay? A lot of times narcissists will go for people that are younger because they're easier to mold and they're easy to develop to become that servant to the narcissist. Okay, that's the common one that a lot of times people bring up. Another one that people bring up a lot of times is like empaths. You know, that narcissists go after empaths because they're so much easier to be able to manipulate their emotions, their feelings, their desires, and they just like help fix the narcissist. They want to come into their lives and like fix them. So narcissists is like, sweet, let me get this empath to help fix me, and then I can keep using them and abusing them to get what I want while they're fixing me. Okay, so sometimes people bring up younger empaths, sometimes bring up the idea of like people that are wealthy. A lot of times the narcissist wants to move on to the next supply because that person has more money. Maybe they just got an inheritance. Maybe they're just already wealthy and the narcissist is like, let me go bum off of them. Let me go be with this person to lift me up, to make me better, to make me feel better, to crash on their couch and use up some of their money. Okay, and we see a lot of times narcissists that will get involved with people that will bleed them dry with money, and then they leave and they go into the next person. Okay, oftentimes you also have people that even go to other supplies as the idea of status. Of like, this person has a higher status, they've got a higher education, maybe they're higher just with wealth and like that status symbol that they get from that. Maybe it's politics, or maybe it's the education level, or whatever it might be. It's like, I want to go to this person, I want to get with this person for that leverage. And so when we talk about narcissists and relationships, we have to remember that a lot of those relationships are transactional. It's like, what can I do the least amount as possible to get the most back? Like, how can I just show up and breadcrumb and leave little things and get the status, the wealth, the manipulation, like whatever it is, how can I get as much back as possible without really investing in them, just making them feel like that? Okay? Well, what I think as well is like going into this, a lot of times people have like those four ideas of like, these are like popular ones, right? But I don't think that's always the case. I think a lot of times that we see those, they're not consistent. Like I said earlier, you might have someone that's younger or that's older. You might have someone that's wealthy or not wealthy at all. You might have someone with status or not status. Like, I don't think it really matters. Because you'll see people that'll cheat, and you'll see people that go to new supplies, and they're not as young, they're not as pretty, handsome, don't have the wealth, they don't have the status, and they don't always go to people because of that. I don't think so. And as I've been working with more people, as I've been doing, having coaching sessions, doing workshops, webinars, like different things that we've done, I've started to notice more of a trend that it's not just about the appearance, it's not just about the status, it's not just about empath or all these things out there. I think it really boils down to two things. Okay? So the first thing that I think the narcissists look for in the new supply is no sense of self. If you don't know who you are, it makes you a high target to be molded into what the narcissist wants you to be. Oftentimes I ask this question to clients, or we're starting to work through some of the abuse and getting into the boundaries and the vision casting, and a lot of times people have no idea who they are. And it's totally understandable coming out of a narcissistic relationship, because that gets broken down and beat down so much, you feel like you're left with no sense of self. Like, I don't even know who I am. I don't know what I like anymore. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what movies to watch. I can't pick out things and make decisions. Like, I don't know what to do, because all of that has been in such an abusive relationship for such a long period of time. So as a result, people don't have a clue of what direction they're going or what they're supposed to do. Those type of people that don't know who they are oftentimes get back into a narcissistic relationship because they don't have that confidence or the repetition of doing different things to build that confidence. And as a result, they become very, very easy to manipulate. The narcissist takes them, places them in the fog, and then is like, all right, now I can control what they see, what they do, where they go. A lot of times the narcissist will put you into that fog and will be able to direct you wherever they want because you don't know your own direction. And the narcissist is like, I'll lead you, I'll take care of you, I'll make you do this, whatever they're going to say and do, they put you in that fog. And because you don't know who you are and you don't know where you're going in life, you don't have that sense of direction, the narcissist takes over and commandeers that. So I think one of the biggest ones is no sense of self. The second one that I think is really big that narcissists look for is people that have no boundaries. Now, a lot of times people are like, I don't even know what boundaries are. Well, because oftentimes those were never modeled to you. A lot of times boundaries growing up weren't modeled in the familial system, or they weren't modeled by the parents of saying, hey, this is what a boundary looks like. This is how you're supposed to live. This is how you're supposed to, not let people abuse you in this way. A lot of times boundaries weren't modeled in family systems. A lot of times it wasn't needed. There wasn't that thought process back then. But when a person doesn't have boundaries, it means they don't have a limit to what another person can force you to do. And oftentimes we see this in relationships, in marriages, in different aspects where the narcissist pushes the boundary in all aspects of life. Wealth, money, sex, like whatever it might be, they'll push the boundaries of what you feel comfortable, and a lot of times past them. You see, it's easy for a narcissist to continue to push those boundaries if you don't actually have a boundary set and you don't actually have a consequence. You might have heard me say a lot of times that for a narcissist, a boundary without consequences is just like a speed bump that they just roll over you. And so I think the two biggest things that a narcissist will look for in the next supply, because they're easy, moldable, and able to be manipulated, is the idea of finding someone with no sense of self and that has no boundaries. Have you noticed that narcissists change masks when dealing with different people? So there's one mask over here for this version, there's one mask over here for this version, and there's a different mask over here for this version, and you see it change over and over and over depending on if they're interacting with you or friends or family or coworkers or people on the street or whoever it might be. There's a different mask for different people. Maybe you've already seen this mask in your life. You've seen it drop, you've seen it crack, you've seen it fall, and he's left you and he's gone to the next supply and he looks like a completely different person. What's going on with the mask, and why does a narcissist seem to fall in love with the mask rather than who they actually are, rather than them true selves? We're going to talk through this somewhat today of uncovering this aspect of the mask and how a narcissist adopts different personas for different individuals, leaving the next supply convinced that they found the better version than when he was with you. Leaving you convinced that when he goes to the next supply, you're like, what was wrong with me? Because now he's completely different. He's completely changed. Did he or did he not? When we talk about this, I want to clue you in really quick. My name is Ben Taylor. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations, the creator of the NARC app, and your guide in the 45-day clarity challenge that helps you break out of a trauma bond and the obsessive thinking and the cycle of going back and forth to a toxic person. If you're new, I'm a self-aware narcissist that's gone through my journey and continues to go through my journey every single day of telling people about the abusive things that I have done in my past and that I'm trying to help break people free from on a daily basis. If you want to know more about this, you can go to rawmotivations.com. You can sign up to be able to talk to me, or you can go to Clarity Challenge to see how we actually break people free every single day. When we talk about this piece of narcissists and the mask, and then even new supply we'll talk about here in the third point, you need to understand first and foremost that narcissists is like a chameleon. They're going to change and shift and shape shift around the people that they're with to get the desired result. Everything is a transaction. Everything is something of like, what do I have to do to get the desired result? Now, is it always such analytical thinking? It's not. A lot of times it's knee-jerk reactions of trying to figure out what to get in the moment. And so then you layer upon lies, you layer upon gaslighting, you layer upon deflection and deceiving to be able to get the desired result as quick as possible. But narcissists oftentimes are like chameleons, alternating and changing their personality based on who they're around. You see this all the time where he looks great and amazing, like in the workplace environment, and all these people come up beside and congratulate him and tell him how great he is. And then when he comes home, he's completely different. Then you put him in this family environment, and sometimes it can be drastically different as well. Like maybe he's got a toxic relationship with some of his family members or his mom or his dad, or maybe there's a meshment there. There's all different types of pieces. You're like, this is another version of him. Then you stick him around his friends, and it's a completely different version. The version that like can talk crap about you, can talk crap about everybody else, and doesn't really give a care for anybody at all because those friends are on the same level. So you're going to see different masks, different facades that a narcissist is putting up, trying to be able to appear and fit in different circumstances. Of like, if I fit in here, I'll get what I want. If I fit in here, I'll get what I want. And this all serves the narcissist in a manipulative way of what can I do to be able to get what I want in the end result. You might have like your partner who he's warm and he's loving when he's trying to win you back. When there's been an argument, when you've laid down your foot and you've said, hey, this isn't happening anymore, I'm not doing this. And all of a sudden he shows up loving. Maybe you've said, hey, I'm going to divorce you. We're going to separate. I'm going to file, whatever it might be. And now he's acting like the nicest person ever. We see this because a narcissist will change or shift at the very end of the relationship to look better. Let's change the mask. Let's appear a little bit different. Let's add a couple more things so it seems like we're actually caring. But in reality, he's just trying to do this to keep on holding on to you just for a little bit longer. But narcissists might do this to try to be nice just to win you back after an argument and then reverts back. And so it might be a day, it might be a week, it might be a month. Then he reverts back to the cold, distant self to only get back to the place where he has control. When you're with a narcissist for a long period of time, he always has control. It might feel like he doesn't, but he always does because he gets a reaction, a response out of you to end up getting what he wants. Hopefully this makes sense. So when we talk through this piece of the mask, there's an aspect of it being almost a fascination and almost an obsession for the narcissist with the mask. Now, if you've ever heard some of the Greek story of Narcissus, where some of the aspect of narcissism came from and where they came up with some of the name and everything. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. There's this piece of Narcissus where he falls in love with his image. Like he falls in love with the reflection that's in the water. And this is what's happening with a narcissist. It's falling in love, per se, with the image, with the mask that he's putting out there versus his actual self, versus what's actually underneath. And so sometimes people say like, hey, narcissists are just so self-obsessed and they just love themselves so much. And that's actually completely false. Narcissist doesn't love themselves at all. Narcissist loves the image that he's putting out there, but he doesn't actually love himself, because true self-care and self-love would be self-introspection, would be self-growing, would be actually working on himself, working to grow and develop him to be the best version of himself, not saying, oh, this is just me. Take a look at my paper mache mask that's put together from all the previous supplies that actually makes me look good, when in reality, that's not the case. Okay? A lot of times some narcissists are enamored with their own masks, not their authentic selves, not the person that's actually underneath. There's this piece of like, I need to find comfort and security in the different versions of me. In this confident version, in this version that shows up nice, in this version that shows up happy. I need to put stock in all of those versus me. If people saw me for who I actually am, then they wouldn't love me. Then they wouldn't care about me. So I can't do that. I have to put up a mask. That's the whole concept. That's the thought process. And there ends up being this comfort and security of like, if I put this up, then I'll feel better about myself. Then I'll feel safe. Then people won't be able to attack me. People won't see anything wrong. I won't get in trouble. And regardless of how this started, whether it's from childhood, whether it's from how they were disciplined growing up, or the abandonment, rejection, all the different pieces that happen inside narcissistic personality disorder and the upbringings of it, there's this piece of like, I will feel safer if I put up a mask. And then that mask seems so great and people seem to like that mask. Let me fall in love with that mask versus actually working on myself to become the version that I actually want. The problem is, in order for a narcissist to actually become a healthy version, comes along this piece of honesty. The piece of honesty actually cracks and then breaks the mask so that there is no other aspect out there except this is just what it is. Narcissists is unwilling to do that. Narcissists is unwilling to actually break the mask and show who they actually are. Think of it this way, like despite him causing harm to you in one moment, he's going to switch to a different mask. He's going to switch to the loving mask and expect you instantly to forgive or to forget. Because, oh, well, this is who I am now. And it's like it moves on so fast. And you see this where he moves on so fast with the next person. And so the third thing I want to talk to you about is this piece of, it seems like there's this illusion or this improvement that's happening when he goes to the next person, the next supply, the new person. And you're left thinking, wait a second, like he changed for her. Why didn't he change for me? Why didn't he actually change and become better in this relationship? What was wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? Why is she better? Why? And all these thoughts will go through your head over and over and will debilitate you and will leave you cold, dark, and sad and hurt. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't actually have anything to do with you. It has to do with what the narcissist wanted, what the narcissist was looking for in that moment, and had nothing to do with your worth. Narcissist was in the middle of putting you down over and over because all he was focused on was himself and what he wanted in that moment. So when narcissists go to the next person, the new supply, they can present an upgraded version of themselves, taking what they learned in the last relationship and applying it to the new one. Taking the different triggers and things that happened with you and saying, oh, if I apply this to the next one and put this on my mask, it'll look good and I'll be able to last longer. I'll be able to hide underneath the mask because the mask is more intact. There's more good pieces that I took from the last relationship or tactics to be able to avoid getting caught or be called out on different things. And so a lot of times narcissists will go to the next supply and will make the next supply believe that he's way better than what he was in the last relationship and makes you think that he's changed for the next person. And oftentimes this cycle happens over and over and over, making you doubt your worth, your validity, and your validity of what actually happened to you. I need you to understand that a lot of times the narcissist is changing, quote unquote, is changing for the next person because the next person is different than you. They're not changing their behaviors. They're not transforming themselves. They're modifying things on the surface to be able to lock that supply in. There's different aspects that other supply is going to like and appreciate different things that you did. So the narcissist is going to change those things to appear better, to appear like they've got it together, to appear more attractive, whatever it might be. Then there's times the narcissist is also doing this to be able to trigger you, to establish a line of communication and to leave the door open, to make you doubt yourself so that when he comes back saying, oh, I want to give you closure or I want to talk through this, you actually open up the door and start talking to him, and then he walks right back into your life. You have to be really, really careful with this because a lot of times narcissists will leverage this over and over and over. Your narcissistic ex, he might have moved on to the new partner. He might appear fixed. He might appear that all his flaws are magically better, and he leaves the new person with the illusion that he is a changed person. You see, you have to understand is a lot of people want the narcissist to change. Unfortunately, the majority of narcissists do change from person to person to person. The mask, the aspect of how they're showing up and how they're living. So they can hide underneath the surface, they can appear better in society, but the difference is they're not actual true transformation from the inside out of narcissists actually admitting his lies and working on it, but instead it's let me fall in love with the mask, let me create a new layer on the mask, let me add an additional mask to be able to hide, to be able to mask the person I actually am inside. If you've experienced the complexities of being in a narcissistic relationship and you need support, I want you to consider joining our 45-day Clarity Challenge at claritychallenge.net. If you want personalized guidance, you can explore an option of working with me, seeing if that would work in an accelerated environment by going to rawmotivations.com. You can schedule one-on-one there. We'd love to be able to talk to you and help you move forward. If you haven't already, hit subscribe so you can learn more and you can follow to make sure you hear more about narcissistic content and how we help set people free every single day. Hey guys, Ben Taylor here with Raw Motivations. Just wanted to come on here and talk to you a few about narcissism. If you guys don't know who I am, or if you haven't followed my channel yet or some of my other platforms, I'm a self-aware narcissist that's on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change to people out there. I do that in a couple different ways. One of the ways is just providing content on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, on different social media, on my website. And the other way is by providing help with talking to people, sharing my story, sharing what I've been through, but then trying to help other people get out of abusive situations, of abusive relationships. I do this with working with people in 3 different sections of going through the trauma bond, getting out of the detox period of getting away from a narcissist or a toxic person, and then focusing on clarity and vision of where they're going, how they're going to set boundaries, how they're going to keep growing down the road. With the trauma bond, I work with a lot of different people to help them rewire their minds and help to change the thought process and reframe their thoughts or the words that are coming out that are developing or showing them a certain direction that might not be 100% accurate. A lot of times you have this when they're stuck in a trauma bond, when they think and they know this is a toxic relationship, but they still feel like they want to go back to that person. They still get sucked back in to a relationship they know is not going to be beneficial or helpful. A Well, like I said, I'm on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. And I wanted to talk to you today about the new supply. Oftentimes, there's this whole situation that happens after either narcissist discarded you or you broke up with a narcissist, that they go and they be with someone else. Typically, this is someone that you're like, wait a second, what's going on? Now you have a new person, and this appeared really quickly. Sometimes it's a person that they're all of a sudden with after a week or a month, or maybe they're married in 3 months, and it starts to play a whole different story in your head about what's actually going on. Because as the narcissist moves on, you start to see like, wait a second, they look happy. They appear like everything's working out for them. It's an awesome relationship. Everything seems to be connected, fun, loving. And you start thinking like, wait a second, like, why did I not get that? And you start to wish that maybe that could have been me, or maybe something was wrong with me. And it starts to put a lot of doubt and a lot of things that go into your mind of what's actually going on in this relationship. So you feel like, hey, wait a second, I'm at the place where I'm hurt, I'm at my rock bottom, and that new supply, that new person is on cloud 9. And it seems really unfair. It also seems really unfair that the narcissist, of everything that they did to you, now they're off with someone else and everything seems to be fine. Typically, this is done for a couple reasons, and oftentimes it's done even in a malicious sense from the narcissist standpoint. You'll see them giving that special treatment to someone else, special treatment to that new supply. What it does, it should tell you that you're not any different and that there's nothing wrong with you, because they're doing some of the same things they did at the beginning of your relationship with the next person. Oftentimes they're giving special treatment to a new supply, a new person in their lives, because they want to groom that person. The focus is to be able to groom that person to be reliable, to be a form of supply that can keep coming back to them time and time again and giving the narcissist what they want. Whether that's validation, whether that's affection, whether that's sex, whether that's their image, whatever it might be, the narcissist is interested in controlling and grooming that person to perfect and grow the narcissist image. It's all about them. You have to remember that. That special treatment will oftentimes be played out not just to groom the next victim, but also in an effort to make you jealous. This is why a lot of times on social media platforms, you'll start to see all these posts that go up on social media from the narcissist or from their supply saying how great it is, how great the relationship is, how loving, how connected, how happy they are. And oftentimes these things are meant for the sole reason to make you react. Either to make you react and come back to the narcissist, so the narcissist can be like, see, look, this is my crazy ex, or to make it so that you feel crazy, so when the narcissist reaches out to you, you're like, yes, like I'll take whatever I can to figure out what's going on, and they start to infiltrate back into your life. This happens multiple times. And this is why the best thing that we communicate almost every single time when there's new supply and cheating and moving on and all this kind of stuff is to go no contact. The reason why we say go no contact is because the narcissist, once they leave the relationship, thinks about putting the next relationship on stage, on production, to show the whole world what that relationship is like. Again, that's to groom the victim, that's to make you jealous, that's to control their image. So when a narcissist is purposely doing that and you're watching that, it starts to mess with your head more to think like, wait a second, they have a loving relationship with their new supply, it must have been me. Thing is, it's not. A lot of people need to remember and need to realize this one truth. And I'll say it here, I want you to listen really carefully. The craziness, the thoughts that you're thinking in the middle of them being with a new supply, wondering about yourself, everything like that, that crazy feeling is the same feeling that someone else was thinking at the beginning of your relationship. Because narcissists go in cycles. They go in rhythms and back and forth and idealization, devaluation, back and forth, up and down. And they get to a place where they go on to the next person or they go on to the next supply. And this happens so often. That's why we say go no contact, because otherwise they will play with your mind, they will mess with your emotions, and they will still try to control and manipulate you even when they're out of your life. Sometimes people are like, okay, well, I just want to see like something bad happen to them. I just want them to get their karma. I just want it to finally just happen so I know for sure that it's not me, that I know for sure it's them. Don't wait around. Oftentimes people want to wait around for them to get their karma, for the bad to happen in that relationship. And the thing is, just how it was in your relationship, oftentimes it will get hidden for a long period of time in the next relationship. Because you have to remember, while they're grooming that victim, they're also teaching that victim to tell other people how good the relationship is. So when that person gets farther down the road and realizes, hey, this relationship is not healthy, is not good, they look like the crazy one because of everything they've already told everyone else about how great the relationship is. The thing you have to remember is there's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing better with a new supply. Because as a narcissist brings these people in, and even if you're out of the picture, but you're still watching, or even if you might reach out or contact or things like that, the narcissist will often use your reaction to triangulate the other person. Now, this could be triangulation for both parties, either way, depending on the relationship. But if you think about it in this way, if the narcissist gets you to react and you reach out and you react, they're able to use that as another form of abuse of the next person. Because they can triangulate the next person saying, look, see this person? They're so obsessed with me, like I could go back to them anytime I wanted. Now that's not the reality because we're setting up no contact. We're going to block and not go back to them. But that's the mindset, that they will twist anything you do, anything you say to further their resolve to build the mask, to control the partner, and to ultimately control that other person. That is triangulation, like at its finest. So please be careful of that. The thing you have to understand is you are good enough. You see, the whole time the narcissist is breaking you down, is tearing down your thoughts, your will, your emotion, your drive, to be able to say like, hey, you're not good enough, and the only thing you can get is me. This is all you can get. This is all you deserve. And over a period of time, you start to believe that, and you start to think that. The difference now with the shift is once you go no contact and you start saying, hey, regardless of what they do, regardless of the fake stuff they're going to put online or they're going to tell other people, I'm not going to get bought into that because it's a facade, it's fake, and I'm going to focus on me. Focus on you. Focus on your growth, because that is the one thing that you can change. You can't change the narcissist. You can't make them aware. You can't force them to understand. You can't force them to get into therapy. You can't force them to get healing. But what you can change is you. So on a day-to-day basis, how are you striving to work to grow yourself? What are you reading? What are you thinking? What are you doing? What habits are in your life that you are forming to help build you to be the best person you can possibly be? Get into therapy, get into counseling, get into coaching. I meet with people on a day-to-day basis. There's lots of creators on here that meet with people on a day-to-day basis, trying to find people to help them get growth, get healing, and get change in their life that sticks. So that you don't end up going back with a narcissist, so that you don't try to leave multiple times, so that you set boundaries, so you stick with them and you continue to grow. You develop the direction you want to go and you say, hey, this is how I'm getting there. My goal is to walk people through that and to guide them to that process so you can find growth, healing, and change in all aspects of their life. If you hadn't had a chance, please subscribe either here or on some of the other social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Would love to have you join us on the NARC app, N-A-R-C. It is an app that's dedicated for educating people about narcissistic abuse and helping combine and develop a community of people, of like-minded people who have been through all this shit and want to get better, and they're finding healing, finding growth, they're tracking their breakthroughs, they're journaling their change, and they're getting to the place where they're going no contact, staying free, and then growing and developing much more past that. We're doing exclusive lives on there. We have monthly Zoom calls. There's a lot of different things going on in the app, so check it out either on Google Play or in the App Store. It's the NARC app, so N-A-R-C. Just look up NARC and you can pull it up right there. Thanks so much. Why are they getting everything that they promised me? Why are they getting everything that I thought we were going to have in our relationship? What's wrong with me? What's actually going on there? A lot of times you'll see, whether you're in a toxic relationship, narcissistic, whatever it might be, and you see that person go to the next relationship, it seems like everything that you once wanted, that once was offered or future fake to you, happened in the next relationship. Why is that? And are they actually getting it better than what they had with you? So many times these questions like play through people's heads and through their minds of like what's actually going on, because so often you're in that narcissistic relationship and then you see it happen over and over and over again with different cycles, with different people, with different supply, And it really starts to mess with your mind, right? Like it starts to mess with what you're thinking, what you're doing of like, maybe it was me, maybe it was my fault. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Ben Taylor. I run Raw Motivations, and I'm on this channel as a self-aware narcissist to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. I do that on a day-to-day basis by meeting with people one-on-one and helping them to work through the trauma bond, helping them to actually process like what they're thinking, what they're going through, and to break free of that toxicity that has them holding on to either hope or potential of another person that they'll change or that they'll get better, or maybe holding on to the cognitive dissonance of thinking like this person is actually this, when in reality their actions are showing something completely different. I try to work with people to actually go through a system and go through a process to rewire the mindset of what they're thinking, how they're processing it, so they stop going back to a toxic person or they get free from that toxic person. As I work with people, I work through getting through the trauma bond. I help people get through the ruminating stage, which is where there's like peace, but it doesn't always feel peaceful. You might be away from the narcissist, you might be no contact, but it still is ruminating in your head. It still is something that's there, that's conscious, that you're still worried about. You're still trying to figure out sometimes. We'll try to help people get through that, the detox phase of that active addiction, and then get to the place of where our vision and values are of how are you going to move forward? How are you going to set boundaries so that you don't go back with a narcissist and that you don't get with a narcissist down the road? Because that's a real potential if you've already been with one. So often when you're in these narcissistic relationships, it gets very crazy in your mind of what's actually going on. But even more crazy happens whenever they leave the relationship. Sometimes you'll see the narcissist get with a new supply, a new person in their life almost instantly. When that happens, it normally kind of goes through your mind of like, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Maybe I could have done something better. When in reality, it doesn't really have anything to do with you at all. And typically, all it has to do is with the narcissist and what they want. Their sense of entitlement, their sense of ego of just saying, hey, I'm not getting what I want. I'm going to continue to move on to the next person. Or I'm getting called out for my actions. I don't want to handle that. I'm going to continue moving on to the next person. So many times when a narcissist leaves you and moves in with someone, continues a relationship with someone, starts a relationship, it happens really fast. That typically is not because they just magically found their soulmate, even though they'll try to get you to believe that through social media. Typically what that means is they've already prepped this person. This person has already been in the wings per se. They've already been in that person's life for a period of time, whether that's as a friend, whether that's just as an acquaintance, whether that's just as a buddy. But they'll have that person there so that that person can step into your role as quick as possible. When that happens, you start to see different things, especially on social media, of different things and different actions that they're doing that oftentimes were promised for you in your relationship. Sometimes what you might see with the next supply, with the next person, are the exact same things that you wanted. You wanted a house on a lake, they're getting a house on a lake. You wanted a trip to France, they're going on a trip to France. Like sometimes it'll be exactly the same things. And it might be really confusing of like, wait a second, like why are they getting that and I'm not? Why did they offer that and actually follow through with that and I'm not? Well, there's a couple of things that's going on here. One with narcissists is they're always learning. A lot of narcissists learn, observe, and really figure out what you want so they can withhold that from you. So let's say, for instance, in that illustration that you wanted a house by the lake. If a narcissist knows that, then a lot of times they'll put that out there. It'll be like the carrot that's constantly leading you on, but they're not going to fulfill that. Because if I keep that leading on, you're going to keep staying. You're going to keep giving me supply. You're going to keep, using triangulation. You're going to keep like trying to get better and better and better for my praise, for my approval to make that happen. However, as I keep putting that out there, it's going to keep dragging that relationship out longer and longer and longer. A lot of times what you'll see is more promises, more ideas, more future faking that happens towards the end of the relationship because the narcissist knows that you're onto them. They know that this toxic behavior that they've been having time and time and time again, you're starting to no longer put up with it. Maybe you're implementing boundaries. Maybe you're starting to say, hey, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to involve myself in your argument. Maybe you're gray rocking, like trying to become as uninterested as possible when they're abusing. All different things might be happening that's prompting them to say, let me change up my manipulation. Let me change up my abuse so that you stay a little bit longer. At the end of a relationship, the only change that you see from a narcissist is the manipulation of how do I extend my stay in your life. If I can do that, then I can last a little bit longer in keeping you under my wrap, under my control. So a lot of times you'll see narcissists that they'll future fake a lot of things that they never had any intention of doing. They're learning about you. They're learning about what you want, your hopes, dreams, and desires, to be able to keep you on that hook. Now, when they go the next relationship, sometimes you'll see the exact same things happening. When you see those exact same things happening, what that actually tells you is that they were paying attention in your relationship. Okay, in your entire relationship, they were paying attention to what was actually going on. The difference is they chose not to give those things. Now they're with the next person. An easy thing to pull out of the toolbox is, oh yeah, I remember past relationship, they wanted a house by the lake. Then they go into the relationship and be like, I've always wanted a house by the lake. That's just, something I've always thought of. Remember, narcissists aren't going to come together with a ton of personality, with a ton of ideas and feelings and thoughts that are their own. They try to leech off of everyone else. So when they leave the relationship, a lot of times they're going to take some of your hopes and dreams and try to implement them with the next person, because then they don't have to come up with their own. They don't have to actually think about it. It can just be something like, oh yeah, let's do this. When in reality, they don't really care. It's just another manipulation and a tool. When you think about it, when in the early part of your relationship, the narcissist probably came in, showed you different things, showed you fake vulnerability, pretended to have empathy, showed you love bombing, all different types of stuff in the relationship. And some of those things in there were the exact same things that they promised the person before, that they never gave it. One of the things you have to remember is when you're looking at the next supply, when you're looking at the next person, you're thinking, gosh, why didn't I get that? What's wrong with me? You have to remember that there was probably someone before you that was actually thinking the same thing when they were starting their relationship with you. A lot of narcissism, and a lot of it is very cyclical in nature, as it happens over and over and over again. And they use the same playbook time and time again. When they go off with the new supply, with the new person, is why we say go no contact and ghost, and don't pay attention to any of the social media, because it's going to be a production. It's going to be something that the narcissist is going to put up there to be able to show everyone else that I'm okay, that I'm fine, that I found the love of my life, that this relationship is perfect. The one I had just wasn't. They were crazy, but this relationship is perfect. And they'll try to convince everyone, including you, that you're the crazy one, and that their relationship now is the best thing ever. A lot of times you'll see a narcissist, when they move on with another person, will try to paint a picture that puts them in the good light and puts you as the crazy person. If you're going through that today, I want you to understand, first off, and when you feel that craziness, the idea of I just don't get it, I just don't see what they see, I don't see what I did wrong, you're probably going to be stuck in some type of trauma bond. That's off the cognitive dissonance, the hope or potential. If that's you today and you're struggling with that, please reach out. I would love to be able to talk to you, help you actually process some of those emotions and feelings, but ultimately get underneath the surface to figure out what's the story. What's the thought that you're believing that keeps you coming back to that toxic person, that doesn't want to let go of that toxic person? I work with people every day on a day-to-day basis on one-on-ones to be able to work through that process, teach them a system, have you apply it, and then go out into the rest of your life applying it and being able to live an aspect of truth and the truth of the situation, because truth is what's going to set you free. If you haven't had a chance to be able to follow me on some of the other social medias, we've got Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Look me up under Raw Motivations. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much. Be able to check us out on YouTube as well under Raw Motivations. We're on all those different platforms. Super glad that you guys are here. If you haven't had a chance, you can listen to the podcast too on the fly as you're driving. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, all over the place on a couple of things. Amazon Music as well. If you haven't had a chance, download the NARC app. We've got the NARC app. It stands for Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community. It's a community of like-minded people that have come together to try to build that aspect of having advice, having support, having people that understand the shit that you've been through and are there to help support and help you heal and grow. On the app, you have a chance to be able to learn about narcissism. You have courses that have been developed from other content creators, from myself, that are there to be able to help educate you on what you're dealing with and help you break free. And then we also have a place where you can track your no contact, where you can go in every day as an accountability of saying, hey, I'm not getting through, this whole year no contact. I'm just getting through today. How can I say no contact to get today and make sure I record it? Record Your Truth. We've got monthly exclusive coaching that happens inside the app. We've got weekly lives that are private in there, so you can ask questions, come on screen, interact out of like situations that are going on right here and right now, just to be able to get clarity. Would love to be able to have you join us. Did you have a narcissist in your life that cheated on you and left you, or cheated on you and you knew about it and you confronted them about it and they wouldn't tell you, or they wouldn't be honest about what was actually happening? You see, there's a lot of times that we'll have a narcissist or just a cheater in general, whoever, that actually has a new supply, that actually has someone else that they're with, but they'll never tell you. Even if you face them with blatant proof of, I saw you here, I took a photo here, that's not me. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's crazy because a lot of times when you're with a narcissist and they have a new supply, even if you know about it, even if you know about what's going on, a lot of times they'll be more protective of the new supply than they ever were of you. I want to be able to talk about that today, about some aspects of why narcissists are more protective of supply than they are you, and give some examples from my own life of things that I've gone through that have been that exact way. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. We do it on multiple different platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, all those types of things. Just look us up under Raw Motivations. I'd like to ask you today, if you resonate with some of the videos or the podcasts that you've heard, like, share them with someone else. Because you never know, someone that you might share this with might be someone who is impacted with narcissism and is in one of those relationships but doesn't really realize it. A lot of times we're finding each and every day people saying like, wow, I didn't realize, I felt like I was crazy because I was going through all this stuff, but I didn't actually realize what it actually was. Now I do. So we're trying to build that awareness. If you want to talk to me sometime to be able to work through the aspects of the trauma bond, how I try to help coach people to rewire their mindset and to get healed and to get healthy from that relationship, would love to talk to you one-on-one. You can go to rawmotivations.com, click on the one-on-ones. We can set up a time to be able to chat. We'd love to be able to help you in your healing journey. Last thing I'll bring up really quick, actually two things. One, if you haven't had a chance to be able to see the journal that we just released a little while ago, it's called From Fantasy to Reality. It is on Amazon, or you can get the links in any of the bios, but basically it has over 100 prompts to be able to help you journal and actually process getting out of that toxic relationship. Last thing, really quick, if you haven't had a chance, check out the NARC app. NARCAPP.com, narcapp.com. It's a great place to build community. We recently just released some new features on it that as we're growing and building the app as we go, where people can tag people can interact with people. You can message members directly and be able to establish more community, more connection than what you've ever been able to do before in that app. So we're building that. We'd love to be able to have you engage with the weekly lives or the monthly coaching. Some of those are going to be transitioning a little bit into a whole nother level. So we can't wait to be able to interact with you on there. Anyways, diving into what we're going to talk about today, why are narcissists more protective of supply than they are of you? Well, to give you a little bit of perspective, my life, if you don't know anything about my story, growing up, getting into relationships, getting into cycles, I thought they were going to stop, got into marriage, and I thought that those cycles were going to stop, but they didn't. As a result, I ended up in 5 different affairs inside my marriage. Each one was different. Each one was different interactions, different communications, all that kind of stuff. But pretty much each one was also very protective of that supply. So I want to talk about a couple things. We're going to drop a couple things. We'll move through protectiveness, supply, discard, and also a couple other aspects that I want to be able to touch base on. So one of the things is a lot of times a narcissist is protective just to not get caught. Okay, I mean, that seems like pretty simple, but when we're talking about cheating and affairs and things like that, like a huge aspect of let me protect this other person is so that I don't get caught, so that she doesn't find out that I'm with this person, or she doesn't find out that I'm interacting with this person, and I want to be able to keep this person on the hook. I want to make sure that they know that they're mine. I want to make sure that I'm theirs, like that kind of mindset. A lot of times we'll see a narcissist be protective because you want to keep the supply on the line. Like you want to show the next person, like, I care. So like for me, it'd be like, hey, I want to know that you know that I care about you because I want to make sure that I keep you in my supply category, my supply field, okay? And there's a lot of aspects of being protective because it shows that I care more for them than I did my wife. And I know a lot of those like kind of commingle a little bit, and a lot of it kind of cuts across. But the idea is to be able to communicate and interact to a place that, one, the supply feels like they're way more cared for, that they are way more involved, that they're the right person, that they're the person to interact and to be with. But then also to be able to hide the aspect of, I need to make sure that no one else finds out about this, and I need to make sure that this person is elevated in a certain way. Oftentimes we'll see this in different aspects when it comes to a supply. Now, I mentioned before, like the narcissist will never tell you about that supply. A lot of times we'll have that. Not all the time. A lot of times we'll have it where the narcissist knows that you know that there's supply, but they will never tell you. Okay, and even when you face them with the facts of like, I saw you with this person, I have a photo of you with this person, I took a picture, I took a video when you were going this way, like even if you have the facts, they won't admit it. And the reason why a lot of times they won't admit it is because when they admit it, they have to admit that they're wrong. And that releases shame and guilt, and that's not something that as a narcissist I want to be able to interact with. So a lot of times my wife would be like, I think you're cheating on me. Or I think I saw you do this. I'd be like, no, you didn't. Like, that didn't happen. Or I'd minimize it. You're being oversensitive. Like, why would you even think that? Of course I'm not cheating on you. Like, playing it down to make her think that she was the crazy one for even bringing up that concept. But at the same time, I was trying to be super protective about the stuff that's going on that side. The other aspect is a narcissist, like I said, a lot of times won't tell you that there's supply. Sometimes they will, okay? So if everybody's like, my narcissist didn't tell, okay, sometimes they will, and sometimes they'll confess that supply in order to try to discard. Typically, we'll call it a reverse discard. When the narcissist is trying to get rid of you and hoping, hey, as I bring this up, they're going to get rid of me, then I don't look like the bad guy, and then I can move on. When this happened, in my relationship, it came to the place that I got to the place where I knew, hey, I need to confess this. I needed to be something that I got out of the way. But there was a big part of me in confessing the affairs that I was like, maybe if I confess, she'll get so upset that she'll leave, and then I can do whatever I want. But I didn't want to justify it. I didn't want to say like, oh, this is what I'm doing. I had to be able to put it under the guise of like, no, this is the right thing. Let me confess it because it's the right thing. And perk of that is hopefully she leaves so I can go do whatever I want. I can go be with the person I want to be. I could go be with that supply or anything like that. Even talking about it with my wife later and a lot of the toxicity that came out of that, a lot of the toxicity that came out with the girl with BPD and all the craziness that happened in that regard. Like my wife even looks back now and she's like, you know, honestly, she's like, there's a part of me that realized halfway through some of the ups and downs that part of it was God probably had me stay with you for a period of time just so you wouldn't go and be with that one person because you literally destroyed your life. It's very true. Anyways, so a lot of times you'll have a narcissist that will confess to do a reverse discard. Let me see if I can get rid of this person. And then a lot of times with the aspect of protecting the new supply is a huge aspect for the narcissist of love bombing. Because the love bombing from the narcissist to the new supply in the protective measure is like, oh, like I'm going to take care of you. Like we're the best thing ever. Like we're going to continue to be the best ever. So for me, I would love bomb the new supply. I would want to know like location to make sure that they're safe. I would want to know when they got home to make sure that everything was okay. Like all these aspects of like very like protective and like loving aspects that a lot of times people like view. But as a result, it's more or less the power of control over another person. And that love bombing would continue on until those supplies would get too clingy. Then it's time to kind of pull back. One other aspect that I want to highlight in my life and what I've seen in a lot of other people is where you have the narcissist that will drop everything to go help the supply while leaving everybody else to fend for themselves. This happened to me. Me happened to that, whatever it is. Okay, but this happened in my life. And there was an aspect that I was at home after a long day of work. I was at home, a wife, kid, dogs, everything, everybody's at home kind of a thing. I think it was like right after supper or something like that. And supply calls up and she's like, can't find the dog. Like, I don't know where the dog is. I'm freaking out about the dog. I was like, don't worry, we'll figure it out. Drop everything, leave my house and my family to go try to find her dog. Big aspect that you'll see a lot of times narcissists that have completely skewed priorities of their family, of their friends, of everything that's going on when it comes to that supply of dropping everything and being like, you no longer exist. Let me go take care of the supply that I want to be with or that I want to interact with. Now, a lot of times you'll have the narcissist that in the moment all they're going to do is they're just going to fight for what they want. So that's why they're not protective of their families or of their kids or anything like that. They're only protective of the things that matter to them in that moment. So a supply matters because that's where I'm getting emotional, mental, physical supply from. So I got to protect that and keep that tight, while the rest of everybody else I don't really care about, because it's in the moment, and what I want is what I want in that moment. So the people that are going to give me what I want, that's where I need to go. Okay? All about the narcissist perspective is all about what I want and my needs. Narcissists will always use that to be like, you're not giving me my needs. That's a bunch of crap. But all I want and all my needs of what I need in that moment. So a lot of times you'll have a narcissist that will be super protective over one thing because it's feeding them. It's giving them supply. It's fulfilling their needs in those moments, and then they ignore everybody else. Hopefully that makes sense. That was like a quick overview, and I tried to be able to share some of my story and some bits and pieces. Let me know how some of that sounded, or if you'd like to hear more about some of that going into that. Last, I want to leave you with, because I've been trying to do that recently, you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you're not hopeless. Reach out for help. When did you finally decide? How or why did you decide to get better? Like, what switch? So it's a long process. It wasn't like a quick, like, oh, I figured it out, I'm gonna get better. Like, it was like a slow process of realizing, like, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what's actually like wrong inside of me. It wasn't like I just all of a sudden figured it out like instantly. Okay. What's up? Abuse is abuse. She's in the house. If you guys don't follow on any of the platforms, you can follow Bree. Her handle is abuse is abuse. She's got a lot of good content about there with narcissistic parents, her from the mom side. What was the first thing to tip you off to NPD? Are you talking about like my NPD, or are you talking about like when I'm talking to a narcissist or like couples coaching? I was saying something and I saw that pop up, so I'm not sure which you meant with that. It's so hard to walk away. Yeah, no, it's hard to walk away because of the story that you're telling yourself. Like it's not as both of you. Okay. So it's not as hard to walk away when you're like, oh, this person is abusive and toxic, and you like see it, acknowledge it, and you feel it inside. But typically those things are incongruent. It's like, okay, I know logically that this person is bad for me, but I still want to be with them. I still want to interact with them. I still want to hug them, kiss them, all those kind of things. And that's the trauma bond. That's the thing that's like still keeping you stuck. Okay. When I'm interacting, so couples coaching is like, I don't know, that fills my like conflict void. Let me put it that way. Because when I do couples coaching, like I probably like cuss the most in couples coaching, because like if I see it, I just like attack it. So like what tips me off the most in like NPD and couples coaching, typically number one is like active gaslighting in front of my face. The second one is typically lying in the conversation. It's awesome. Like I'm just like, you just lied to me. Like it's great. It's great. And then the third one a lot of times is demeanor, expression, eye contact, and like the smirk. Like the smirk I catch like a lot of times. Like you see the other person, they're like, you know, and it's like, wait a second, like something's actually going on. There's a lot of different pieces, and some of it's also a vibe and picking up on energy. But yeah, no, there's a lot of things that happen with that. For me, the first ever exposure I ever had to anything narcissism related was my wife telling me about Lee Hammock. And I think even at that point, she wasn't telling me that he was a narcissist. She was just saying like, this is something you relate to, kind of a thing. It wasn't even like, oh, you're a narcissist at that point. And later down the road, it was a little while later. Cause I mean, when I first saw Lee's video, like back then I was like, who is this guy? Like, whatever, he's full of BS. But like down the road, I got to the place where I had a question one time. It was like that slight like moment of clarity in one sense. And you see this a lot of times with narcissists, like really brief, really quick. But I had like a slight moment of clarity, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I was like, I connect differently. I don't really care about other people. Like I don't connect with them emotionally. Like there's a huge disconnect. There's a bunch of stuff there that I was like talking about. And I looked at my wife and I was like, I don't know what's wrong. I was like, maybe I'm a sociopath. And so we looked up sociopath. We were like, you know, Googling stuff and all that kind of stuff. And we're like going through it. And then she's like, no, I think you might be a narcissist. So I looked it up. I was like, all right, let me go see, am I a narcissist? Pulled it up, read through the 9 stuff. And then I was like, nah, that's not me at all. And I like completely like gaslit her. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I made sure to go to all the people around her friends and people that we worked with and people that I was cheating with. Like I went to all those people and I was like, you don't think I'm this way, right? Like I can't be this. I mean, I might have some traits, but like I can't be like this. Like Kayla's saying this about me, like all this kind of stuff to be able to stack the deck to make sure that it like wasn't me, right? Like it can't be me. And so like with that, there was a piece of like I had to turn it back on everybody else. But there's also a piece of it that there's a little bit of awareness there. Like there's something underneath the topic as I looked into it more, because I'm going to look into it more. So I have that knowledge. Knowledge is power. That's what I'm trying to do. So I look into it more. And then also being with a girl who had BPD and narcissistic traits, I started to see that stuff reflected at me. And it wasn't just bouncing off of me. Like it was coming from her. And I was like, this is different. So there's a lot of different things. Okay. Yeah. Brief awareness. So like, I have times where I feel like I would say it this way. I have NPD, borderline, not really. Don't really pull from that. Sociopath, not really. I can think and I can put myself in the place a lot of times of a sociopath. Like I can think through, okay, this is what would happen. And in the narcissistic mindset, it makes logical sense of like how a person gets to a place of physical violence or physical abuse and like all this stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, you have to rewire it this way. You have to rewrite history and it makes sense this way. So I can put myself in those places to try to be able to understand and like work through things. I don't stay there obviously. But that kind of thing. What certifications do you have for identifying NPD? Let's see, 34 years of living it. But besides that, everything that I work with is trying to help people break free of their trauma bond. And a lot of times being able to do that is identifying NPD. And so not just the research, the stuff that I've done, the almost 3 years of therapy that I've been in, but then working with clients nonstop to try to help them break free of that trauma bond and seeing all these different things that keep matching up. Keep having these traits. And a lot of times I'd be talking to someone on a one-on-one and they go so far in the conversation, I can finish the conversation for them because I know exactly what's going to happen. I know exactly like, well, they did this or they said this and they're like, oh yeah, how did you know? And I'm like, because I think the same way. Okay. All right. So we're going to do new supply and then we're also going to do, what was the other? No contact. Yeah. We'll do those two right now. Okay. So new supply, big question. Does the new supply get it better? Okay. We dive into this a lot more inside the Clarity Challenge at claritychallenge.net. Just FYI, it's out there for your consumption, for you to be able to process and go through. But the new supply, do they get it better? A lot of times people want to ask that question because they're concerned, like I might be missing out. Like they've been toxic and they've been abusive to me, but they might be better to the next person. What's actually going on? So a lot of times you have to understand that a narcissist modifies and changes their mask depending on the person that they're around. If I'm around someone who likes a certain thing, like, we'll make it easy. If I'm around someone who loves going to the movies, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love going to the movies too. Like, isn't the best thing ever? Did you see this movie? I have no clue what I'm talking about, but I'm like bringing it up, like, we're going to connect. And then I go to the next person and the next person's like, I hate the movies. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know too. The last person we went to the movies nonstop. It was the worst thing ever. So you have to understand a narcissist will change and modify their mask depending on the person that they're around. This a lot of times also has the aspect of dealing with hobbies and things like that, of like a lot of times a narcissist doesn't have this hobby that's fulfilling. It's like, no, I'm going to go with this hobby because it fulfills me because I'm infiltrating myself into your life, maybe controlling, a lot of different things like that. Okay. So lose my train. Okay. So new supply. So when we're pulling it back to the new supply, you have to remember they change how they're looking. They change that dynamic based on the person that they're around. It's a new mask. Someone once said, like, they take Lego bricks from each person that they've been with and add them and modify the mask that they're actually there to the other person. Okay. Now, what is happening when they go to the next person is you don't see behind closed doors. A lot of times people are like, but it looks so good. And you have to remember at the beginning of your relationship with a narcissist, odds are 9 times out of 10, it looks so good to everyone else too. You have to understand that switch that's actually happening there behind closed doors. And so what you see a lot of times is you only see the good part. That's because what you're seeing in the moment is you're on the outside looking in, seeing the love bombing, seeing the triangulation, seeing the isolation, and putting things in place to keep that person locked in place. Okay? So the new supply is going to look like it's going to get better. Now, there's a thing that actually happens here that you start to notice and you start to realize that makes you feel crazy. And that's the piece of like, wait a second, they're doing everything that I wanted them to do. You're like, how is this possible? Okay. The first thing you need to understand, and this is like a game changer if you can get this in the full concept. Okay. The first thing you need to understand is when they do everything for the next person, everything to a T, like to a T of exactly what you wanted, that means when they were in your relationship with you, they knew. They knew exactly what they needed to pull from you to keep you stuck in that relationship. That shows you a lot. The second thing you have to understand is when they're doing that to the next person, a lot of times it is the way to be able to trigger you, to be able to have you reach out to them, reverse hoover yourself back in, be able to confuse you in that aspect. The other aspect is they're actually using it a lot of times in another way of abuse. Okay. And the reason why I say this is because you don't understand what is happening on the other side. I've used this as illustration before. Hopefully this makes sense. Let's say you loved going to the beach. You always wanted to go to the beach. And the nurse is like, I hate the beach. I don't want to go to the beach. And you never got to go to the beach. So there's always something that was like dangling in front of you of like, I want to go to the beach. And they're like, I'm never going to go to the beach. Okay. They go to the next supply. And then you turn around, they're always at the beach. Well, the thing that you might not realize is that next supply might hate the beach. And all they want to do is go to the mountains. You see what I mean? So sometimes it is like a win-win for the narcissist. It's like, hey, I can trigger this person from my past by doing what they wanted, and I can also hold something back from the next person of what they want as well. Like it works in tandem a lot of times. Okay. Now I'm seeing a lot of comments right now about triangulation. Okay. There's a couple different aspects about triangulation. I'm going to try to explain it without like botching it or like confusing everybody with it. Okay. Triangulation is the idea. Like think of it as a triangle. Okay. And you have one person up here that is either controlling communication to the other people or pitting people against each other. Okay. And this would be like the idea, like you're already mad and upset about a friend of a friend and you don't even know them. Like you don't even have like enough judgment to be able to say like, okay, they're a bad person or anything like that. All it is like, oh, like I'm upset about this, that kind of thing. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. So like the idea of triangulation can be like really difficult for people to understand. And like a big piece of that triangulation is like getting to the place and like understanding like, hey, it's typically this aspect of like trying to pit you against another person, of trying to like control you in different ways. And so a lot of times the triangulation piece will be along the lines of like, hey, like, did you see this? Did you see this? Also, the other aspect of triangulation is also think of it in a gambling session. Okay. Think of it like this, of a person who's going to up the ante. Like, hey, let's try to make it like really practical. I'll make it like simplistic, but like really practical. Okay. We've got two people. Okay. So I've got two people here. And I go to the first person and I hold their hand. Okay. And I go to the second person. They're like, no, I don't want physical contact. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like, you know, the other person, they held my hand. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I'll hold your hand. And then you go back and forth. So it's like that of like, they'll keep like up in the ante. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. But that's not like trying to give like the best example to try to be like, this is how it works. If you want to meet with me one-on-one, you can go to my website, rawmotivations.com. You can click on one-on-ones. Would love to be able to talk to you, try to be able to help you. What I do, give you like a quick pitch of what I do is really in three buckets. I try to help people first break free of the trauma bond, get through the limbo land of rumination and the addiction of like, let me detox from this person. And I help people figure out who they are and set boundaries. Hey guys, Raw Motivations here. I wanted to come and talk to you today about supply and the supply I struggle with. So I want to be at least a little bit vulnerable. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Ben Taylor. So I run Raw Motivations, and I'm on this platform to bring awareness about narcissism, to help people get healing, growth, and change in their lives. And I do that by talking with two different types of people. I do that with talking to people who have been in narcissistic abusive relationships, and they're either in them, they're either getting out of them, or they're dealing with the aftermath after they've gotten out and the addiction and feeling like they want to go back to that person, all types of things like that. Now I work with these people one-on-one to get them out of the trauma bond, to work through the addiction section, and to get to a place of establishing clarity and future visions and goals and values so they can grow well beyond what they ever could have grown when they're in that toxic relationship. Oftentimes we're dealing with the facts and figuring out the story that's underlying the situation that's really pulling them back,
or pulling them down. I also work with people that have narcissistic traits. That's the second type of person. And those people with narcissistic traits, they come to me, and a lot of times I'll have one meeting and then I don't hear from them again. They just disappear. They kind of just vanish because they don't want to put in the work. And there's a couple that I work with on a weekly basis that do put in the work and are trying to make an active difference in their lives on a day-to-day basis. But that can be really hard. It's really hard for me. It's really hard for me to be transparent. It's really hard for me to be honest. It's really hard for me to be vulnerable. And being on this platform is part of me being honest and taking that to a whole nother level. Like, I'm not just being honest with myself and, thinking these thoughts inside my head, but then I'm also honest with my wife and with my church and with my family and with my friends. But then I'm also honest on here, on this platform. And part of it was my step and my growth towards becoming who I am now and a journey of who I want to be in the future, of a different person, of a different man, changed, growing, and becoming who I was meant to be. Sometimes that road is easy, but most of the time it's hard. Most of the time it sucks. So I wanted to talk to you today about supply. So you might know already what supply is. So the idea of a narcissist having someone in their life that is supply. Now, supply can be two main different types. You could have good supply, and then you could have bad supply. Okay? Most of us normally think of good supply when we think of it. And I'm not talking about right or wrong, I'm just talking about a definition of it. A good supply idea for a narcissist might be the idea of they're getting praise, they're getting validation, they're getting love, they're getting affection. The idea of like good supply. Okay? Then there's the idea of like bad supply, or let's say negative supply. And that idea would be they're getting attention, but it's not about anything in a positive way. They're getting called out for something. They're getting yelled at. They're getting screamed at. They're getting abused. That type of thing is also in negative supply. You also have sometimes what people have termed as maybe positive supply or sometimes good supply. That would be someone who's doing something and getting something back, but it's not a manipulative thing. It's not a negative thing. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm just talking about supply, what could be a good supply or a bad supply for the narcissist. So when we normally think of supply, we normally think of that good supply. We normally think of the narcissist trying to get something out of someone. And it's normally they want some type of positive response. They want you to love them. They want you to interact in a positive way. They want you to make their image look better. That's been me. That's been my life, of wanting someone in my life that I could get something out of, that I could manipulate or gaslight or control to be able to have them 100% mine, keep them isolated from everyone else, and have them understand that they are mine. It's the idea of getting a supply and holding on to it. That's why a lot of narcissists propose or get married or have a baby, because they know, hey, this is something that's going to lock this person in long term for me to keep the supply, for me to keep getting something from this person regardless of how I treat them. So I want to talk to you today about supply, but as far as like in terms of me. I was talking to my therapist the other day about supply and about just being alone and being without that supply in my life. And she asked me this question. She was like, how long do you remember a time in your life? What's the longest? She was like, what's the longest that you've been without another person in your life? What's the longest you've been without supply? And right now we weren't counting like my wife being in the picture right now, but we were just talking about like that supply, that like addictive nature, that, cheating aspect, those affairs, just being with someone. And she asked me, she was like, can you think of a time? And if you can, how long was it that you were without supply? And I sat there and I thought. And I thought for a couple minutes and I was like, I don't know. I can't think of a time that I didn't have someone. I can't think of a time that I wasn't interested in someone or talking to someone or having it crisscross where the person is fading out of my life and a new person's coming back in, and it just would keep going in a cycle like that all the time. But I was thinking about it, I was like, I can't think of anything. So the hard part now is she like asked me, she was like, how long has it been since your last supply? And I rattled off a couple 100 days because that's what it had been. And she was like, look at that. She's like, that's more progress than what you've ever seen before. I didn't think of it that way. It wasn't something that I connected with because I was like, this, I just didn't compute. And then all of a sudden she brought that up and I was like, that makes sense. Getting to a place of not going to another person for supply is really scary. Now I want to kind of illustrate this way, okay? Kind of like tilt this down here. All right, so imagine this. Imagine I've got these 3 different glasses, okay? And for a narcissist, they normally want to spread themselves out. They don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. They don't want to develop a relationship fully and wholly with one person. So as a result, they kind of like piece themselves out. They give a little bit of themselves, a little bit of themselves, a little bit of themselves, all for the purpose of taking everything that they can. So one of the hardest things for me, one of the scariest things for me, is not being with multiple supply and not having backups lined up. Not having an additional person in the wings ready to come in or ready for me to go and to save or manipulate or whatever. But to get to the place of saying like, hey, like I'm actually going to only have one person in my life and I'm not going to go to having another supply. I'm not going to go towards, my thoughts or desires at times of like, hey, it'd be easy to have someone else, to have, emotional connection with this person, an affair with this person, like anything like that. And what you see is with narcissism and what you see with people in cheating relationships that want supply from different people, they only pour a little bit into each person because they want the backup. They want the additional person. They want the side chick. And for me, probably one of the hardest things, and one of the things that feels very vulnerable, even saying on camera now, is just the idea of saying like, hey, on my journey, I've had to get to a place where I'm committed and I'm saying, hey, I'm no longer going to do this. And one by one, I'm going to start putting all my effort into one. And putting all my effort not into a bunch of people, not into a bunch of things, but into one. But that's hard, and that's confusing, and that feels so vulnerable to say, hey, I'm taking these options off the table. And they're no longer here anymore. And realizing and understanding that this is who I am, and this is where I'm going, this is the person that I want to be, that says, hey, I'm making one person a priority, not multiple. I'm making one goal a priority, not multiple. Are you in a relationship with someone that handles all these other people lined up? That has these other people that they're pouring into and they're investing their time and effort into another person versus you? If that's something that's happening, you're probably in a relationship with someone who doesn't care, maybe doesn't love, definitely doesn't respect or value to put you first and to put you number one. This is an aspect that's really hard for me. But my goal, as I grow, day by day, is to work through the uncomfortableness, is to work through the aspects of vulnerability that I feel and despise a lot of times, to say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I've done, this is the direction I'm going. I'm going to do that one step at a time, one piece at a time, to become the man that I'm supposed to be. If you're involved in a relationship with someone who's not putting their time and effort into you, but you see them piecing it out to other people, to other women, to other men, whoever it might be, let's just call it what it is and say it's a red flag. Because it doesn't sound like that person is going to be committed or faithful to you. And you deserve someone who respects you. And you deserve someone who loves you. And you deserve someone who makes you and your relationship a priority. If that's you and you want to talk sometime, click on the link down below to be able to schedule a one-on-one. I'd love to be able to talk with you and be able to help you, whether that's in the trauma bond, working your way out of it, or just your future goals and visions. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook to get some nuggets of truth every single day. Listen to me on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Would love to have you rate and just share some episodes there to help encourage people, to help them understand what narcissism is and help promote healing, growth and change out there. Thank you.
Narcissist new supply. What's going on with that? Why are they attracted to that person? That person's not even attractive. That person doesn't even have money or image or status. Why would that person actually want to be with that new supply? Well, today we're going to be talking about some of that. And if you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, change, and development. If you like what you see here talking about narcissism, narcissistic abuse, hit subscribe. Hit that notification so that you get notified when we drop new videos, new content, when we're going live on the platform, anything like that to try to help you get awareness. Or maybe something you watch today or tomorrow would be something that you could share with someone that might be going through a crazy situation and you could provide clarity. When we talk about narcissists, we normally talk about how they love supply, how they love that reaction, how they love that attention from another person. And sometimes that attention from another person could be anyone, could be anything. Sometimes it doesn't even matter. It's just they're getting something from someone. So we're going to talk through a couple things today. Some of it's going to be the next supply and what attracts the narcissist to that next supply and what actually matters, how that's going to match up. When we talk about the word supply, I want you to understand that we're not talking about this in a way to degrade another person. Sometimes people hear me say the word supply and they start attacking me. And I'm like, I'm not calling someone a supply now as a degrading form. I'm using it as a definition to describe what the narcissist is actually thinking about another person, which is pretty bad, which is a way that the narcissist doesn't care about you and doesn't care about the other person. When we're talking about the word supply, we're talking about this aspect of a person or a thing that reacts to the narcissist giving attention or giving validation to their shallow, false sense of reality. For that kind of person, it is going to be a person that comes into the narcissist's life that makes them feel better about themselves. It doesn't mean that they're going to care or love that person. It just means, hey, in this moment, I'm getting something from this person, so they are good supply. But what's going on when we talk about the next supply? Because typically when we're talking about the next supply, we're looking at, hey, narcissist wants the supply to feed their ego. They want to look better by being with this person. They want to get attention. Maybe they want to be able to infiltrate and have more money. Maybe it's just a different sense of mask. What's actually going on with the next supply? Well, a lot of times a narcissist views themselves as being pretty amazing, right? They view themselves being the best person on the planet. That's what I thought. I thought I was perfect. I thought I didn't have any mistakes, anything that I had to work on. And as a result, I was like, I'm so amazing. Let me go find someone else who actually matches that. Let me go find someone else who is a little bit more amazing than the person I'm with. So starting that whole like cheating cycle, right? But then you find someone who's like that amazing and you get to the place where you start to realize, wait a second, they're actually human. I'm not because I'm perfect, but they're human, so I need to go find someone else. Okay, like that's sometimes that like churn of going through people because the narcissist gets with someone is like, no, they're not as good as me. Move on to the next one. It just keeps going. Okay, so sometimes there's this aspect of like they're not so amazing, so I'm gonna move on. When we're talking about narcissism and supply, a lot of times when they're going from person to person to person, they're looking for this control and this manipulation. Like they're looking to be able to control and manipulate another person. And when they're able to do that, sometimes it extends their stay in that person's life because they have ultimate control over that person. Sometimes they're just looking for someone, anyone, to provide attention, to provide a validation, ultimately to get supply. This is where it gets confusing for people because they're like, why would they be with this person? Like, why does it actually make sense for the narcissist? Because they look bad being with this person. Like, they look like they downgraded or whatever it might be. Like, sometimes this thought process and idea is going on here. When it comes down to it, the narcissist oftentimes doesn't care. Now, when we're talking about like image, so think of it this way. When we're talking about image, we're talking about a mask. Sometimes people get confused about this and they think that the image is only the outward exterior, which it typically is. But that image, that mask that the narcissist is putting out can sometimes be internalized as well. And when it's internalized, it means that the stuff that they're doing that makes them look bad in public, they don't really care. Because in their mind, they've already manipulated it, twisted it, and put a mask in place. Oftentimes a victim mask, but they put a mask in place that tells them, I'm good. That tells them that they're better than everyone else. That tells them that they're just the one being abused, whatever it might be. And sometimes that means they will do stuff that seems completely different than what they've done before. Because they're no longer putting that mask on the outside. The mask is more on the inside. And they're just like, yeah, I'll just justify it inside. I'll gaslight myself to believe that what I'm actually doing is okay when it's not. So when we're talking about that, sometimes a narcissist wants to go to another person just for a change of pace. Like, I want to be able to, I'm done with this model, I'm going to go with this model. I'm done using this toaster, so I'm going to try a different toaster. Like the illustration of appliances and transactions comes into play here when a narcissist is like, I'm tired of this, let me try something different. Sometimes it's just a way to be able to prove power and dominance. Maybe the narcissist just got out of a relationship with you and was like, oh, man, they're holding me accountable, I hated it. Like, I just want to get with someone else that I can show that I'm in control of. Now, they're not going to say that, but that's the thought process I'm trying to break down so you understand. So sometimes change of pace, sometimes prove power and dominance, sometimes just that aspect of control. Sometimes they do it to be able to make you jealous or to be able to get back with you or to be able to manipulate or put you in an envious state of mind. It's a lot of different things. End of the day, it could be anyone. Could it be anyone for their looks, for their attention, for the time, for their money? It doesn't really matter. What a narcissist is looking for is someone to pay attention to them, someone to give them validation, and someone to keep propping up their false sense of reality and live in a shallow relationship that makes them feel better. Well, when we talk about the next supply, we also need to identify what actually attracts a narcissist. Because a lot of times people are like, certain things attract them. Money, image, sex, whatever it might be. A lot of things seem to attract narcissists to certain types of people. Maybe you're in the camp of like, well, they are attracted to empaths or people that care so much or people that have compassion and want to fix others. Like all these different things is, yes, there's all aspects of that. When it comes down to it, I want you to show you three things that typically attracts a narcissist. Number one is an easy one, is a lack of boundaries. When you don't stand up for you, when you don't have a boundary of the limit of the shit that you're going to take, the narcissist loves that. The narcissist looks at that and is like, that means I can manipulate and I can control you. That means I can do what I want to get what I want, regardless of how you feel or act, because you don't actually stick to the things that you say you don't want in your life. So as a result, you set up a boundary and the narcissist blows through that boundary because you did not stick to that boundary. You don't show up for you. So as a result, the narcissist is like, well, you're definitely showing up for me. And they'll keep that going. Second one is a lack of worth. Sometimes you get to the place, whether before the narcissist or in the narcissist relationship, that you think you don't deserve much. Or you don't think you deserve love. Or you don't think that you deserve an actual good relationship. Or what you deserve is the maximum of what you have right now. And so you're left there thinking, this is what I deserve. And so the narcissist is like, yep, this is exactly what you deserve, so I'm going to keep giving you everything you deserve. Which typically is nothing but their manipulation and control. And then you have the third one, which I think is the crux of it, the biggest one, is the lack of identity. You don't know who you are. And as a result, since you don't know who you are, the narcissist is like, let me show you who you are. You are a person who serves me. You are a person that falls under the line of what I want you to do. This ends up being someone who is very easily manipulated. Think of it as someone who is like molded into the version that the narcissist wants them to be. That's molded into the person that the narcissist wants them to be so that they can serve them, so they can control them, so they can get that supply. Whether it looks great, whether it doesn't matter. All it matters is in the narcissist's mind of what they're getting from the other person. So what actually matters? Like when it comes down to it, what actually matters with the new supply? What actually matters with you? How does this all correlate? How does this all actually add up? I want you to consider right now, when we're talking about this aspect of the next supply, and you're thinking about the next supply, I want to tell you what matters. Nothing. Because typically what you want to do is compare yourself, to contrast, to be able to put yourself out there thinking, wait a second, why are they doing this? What's going on here? Why are they with this person? I was so much better. This was so much better. The relationship that you had with a toxic person, do you really want that back? And if so, do you really want it back the way it was? Because that's how it would be. That toxic and that manipulation. Regardless of what you see with the next person, what you get back would be your version. of the narcissist, not the new one that they created to manipulate and to woo another person, but your version, the toxic, abusive one. So when we think about this, I need you to understand that you're going to waste a lot of your life focusing on things you can't change versus the one thing that you can change, and that's you. The one thing that you can mold and modify and develop into being a better version, into being the person you are meant to be or called to be or want to be, whatever it might be. That's you. You need to understand that your worth is not defined by that next person, by the narcissist or by the new supply. And you need to understand that you have a moment of recognition. You have a moment of opportunity right now to understand that regardless of what's going on with the new supply, you have one thing that you can control, and that is you. So the question today is, are you willing to embrace that challenge? Are you willing to embrace that moment of healing, of saying, hey, whatever they're going to do, I'm not going to subscribe to that reality. I'm going to continue to work on myself to grow, change, heal, and develop to be the person that I'm meant to be. If you're in that spot today and you want that change, I want to invite you to go to escapetoxicity.com. It's a 7-day challenge to healing. Just breaks the ice for you to start opening up your eyes and your ears and your life to the aspect of the hard truths that you need to hear. You'll be interacting and you'll be seeing other people in the community. You'll be getting videos and daily talks from me to help you move forward in your healing journey. Because that's what matters, not the next person. It'll feel like they matter. You'll want to have them matter so that either you feel better about yourself or that you understand that your worth matters. But it's not about them. And your worth doesn't come from them. It comes from you. Are you willing to take the challenge today to heal, to grow, to change, and develop? Then go to escapetoxicity.com, and I'll see you there.